about the National Security Agency surveillance program says that even low-level analysts could access Americans' private emails and phone calls. Glenn Greenwald made those comments this morning on This Week. It comes as a Fox News poll shows Americans are just about evenly split on whether the programs can help or hurt. Can our government balance privacy concerns with fighting terrorism? Indiana Senator Dan Coates, a member of the Intelligence Committee, joins us now live to talk about it. Senator, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Shannon.
And I know that you've said in the past, as we are learning more about the NSA capabilities, that there are members on both sides of the aisle who you think have been using this for political advantage, or at least putting out information that you feel like is not accurate about the program.
Well, I think there's been a lot of mischaracterization and misinterpretation of actually what is happening and what isn't happening. I think it's important to the American people, particularly given this trust deficit that exists now with anything coming out of Washington. This is different from the phony scandals, and I don't know how I don't think the president's going to want to feel very good about using that phrase in the future. It works on the campaign trail, but not as a presidential characterization. Nevertheless, this falls into a different category, but the people need to know, to trust their government, that they're trying to provide for their security, but balancing that with protections for their privacy. We have to find that balance because we can't let one go in effort to shore up another one. That we have to find that balance. Those of us on the Intelligence Committee, the administration, the courts, members of Congress, all need to look at this, know what it is, know what it isn't, educate the American people as to what we're doing, and try to restore that trust that we're truly looking out for their safety. We're not listening into their phone calls. Yeah,
because a lot of folks are very concerned. I want to put up one Fox News poll that we recently did just days ago on the NSA surveillance programs. Are they more likely to hurt Americans or help catch terrorists? A larger number, 41%, said that these programs were more likely to hurt Americans than the 41% who said they'd help catch terrorists. How do you make up that deficit? Is it possible to convince the American people, as you say, that these programs are necessary?
I'm not surprised by those results, given Benghazi, given IRS, given the phony scandals coming out of Washington, not phony scandals. Americans have lost trust in their government. I think we have to restore that by being transparent in terms of what we're doing. The only problem there is a lot of this is classified material. As we release what we're doing, it's not only reassuring Americans, but terrorists are listening, and they're finding workarounds for that. So it compromises what we're trying to do. But I think if people would take the time to learn exactly what it is and what it isn't, it's not listening to anybody's phone calls. It is having a database full of phone numbers. And let me just give you a personal example. This has been released. Nahubala Zazi was a known terrorist in Pakistan. We knew what his phone number was. When it was matched against this database of phone numbers, we found out he was talking, a terrorist in Pakistan was talking to Zazi, who was then in Colorado. We're saying, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. What's the guy in Colorado doing talking to a known terrorist in Pakistan? We took that information to the court. The court said, yeah, go ahead and investigate that. The FBI did. They arrested people. Zazi pleaded guilty. This was the New York subway bombing. So that's just one example of the more than 50 of which we have been able to intercept or use this information, this technique. At the same time, there's a lot of misinformation out there about what this is. We have a responsibility, I think, members of Congress, media, others, the President and others, and the President has stepped out and said the right thing on all this, to inform the American public that we can protect their security interests, we can protect their privacy, and they're not incompatible. After all, we don't want to move back to where we were pre-9/11 in terms of our capabilities of undermining, of finding out those who are trying to undermine our economy and hurt Americans.
I want to quickly ask you about the vote over in the House this week dealing with this, because there's not only skepticism among the American people, among a lot of lawmakers as well. It was 217 to 205. That's a pretty tight margin on an amendment that would have blocked funding for NSA surveillance activities that weren't limited to specifically to persons of interest. That would have been a big development had that passed. Now, of course, that wouldn't just go through the House. It would have to go further than that. But what's your reaction to that vote?
Well, according to the intelligence community and those of us who have studied this very, very carefully in the intelligence committees, it would have compromised the program to the point where it might not even have been able to go forward. We need that instantaneous understanding of something that links us up with a known terrorist. We can't go through a whole bunch of process, but we do go to a special court to do that. The amendment that was proposed, really this ought to be debated in the context of the Patriot Act. You can't just throw an amendment out there at the time of where there is a trust deficit, where people don't trust Washington. Again, I'm not surprised by that vote, but again, to me, it tells me we have to have this responsibility of letting the American people know that we are looking out for their interests. We have multiple layers of oversight. I'm on the Intelligence Committee in the Senate. I will not compromise on terms of people's privacy and rights to privacy. At the same time, I want to make sure we follow the law, and the administration and the security agencies are doing that in using a technology that helps us identify terrorists in time to stop their attacks.
All right. Well, and as you said, we all have a responsibility to know the truth, what's fact or fiction about these programs. Senator, good to see you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right. Eric Holder targets Texas for voter ID laws and some others, but is this about